Have you ever wondered why success terrifies the very people who chase it the hardest? In the markets, profit is not only a number, it is a mirror. When a trader like Michael Marcus watched his fortune multiply, it was not merely capital expanding, it was the shadow of his own psyche expanding with it. Most dream of making millions, but when reality arrives, the unconscious begins to whisper, "Do you deserve this? Can you hold it? What will happen when you have more than you ever imagined?" Success becomes a paradox. The very thing that promised liberation now threatens to unmask hidden fears, unresolved guilt, and a fragile. Imagine this: you are seated before the glowing screen, the trade moving in your favor, numbers escalating like a rising tide. At first, joy. Then, an almost imperceptible tightening in the chest. What if you lose it all tomorrow? What if friends, family, and rivals now expect more than you can give? In that instant, profit transforms into pressure. The prize morphs into a burden. And in this quiet battle, the hidden fear of success is born. It is not the market punishing you. It is your own psyche refusing to expand into the role success demands. Marcus, like many traders, was not only wrestling with price charts, he was confronting the archetype of the hero at the threshold. In mythology, the hero who acquires the treasure must prove worthy of carrying it home. Dragons do not always guard gold. Sometimes they guard the trader's sense of worth. A fortune without inner integration becomes a curse. The ancient Stoics warned of this long before trading screens existed. Seneca wrote that fortune blinds those unprepared, while Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to detach from praise, possession, and power. The trader who fears success is simply the one whose shadow has not yet been welcomed to the table. Has this ever happened to you? A winning streak begins, and instead of feeling invincible, you sabotage it. You overtrade, you mismanage risk, or you withdraw too early, convincing yourself it is prudence. But beneath it, there is an unconscious discomfort. If I keep winning, I will become someone else, someone I may not know how to be. Success demands transformation, and transformation is terrifying. Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole as a path littered with inner demons. For the trader, these demons often appear when profits soar, not when losses mount. There is a strange comfort in struggle. Failure provides excuses. Losses provide identity. Many unconsciously cling to scarcity because it is familiar, and the psyche prefers the known cage over the unknown sky. To succeed without fear requires a death of the old self, a burial of the narrative that survival is all you are worthy of. Michael Marcus himself confessed that while his trading genius multiplied wealth beyond measure, the psychological storms nearly consumed him. He became a living testament that success without mastery of the self is not freedom, it is imprisonment by another name. You may tell yourself that you fear loss, but what if what you truly fear is holding on to success? What if you fear becoming the person success requires you to be? Markets are merciless mirrors. They show you not only greed and fear, but also your relationship with worthiness. If you do not feel deserving of greatness, you will give it back. If you secretly equate wealth with corruption or isolation, you will unconsciously erode it. The account balance reflects not only trades but also hidden beliefs, the subterranean narratives you rarely confront. Some traders retreat at the moment of victory, as if climbing back into the shadows where anonymity protects them. Others plunge into reckless excess, blowing fortunes in spectacular self-destruction, proving to themselves that they were right all along. I am not meant for this. Both paths are the same dance with shadow, until a trader integrates the archetype of the king, the one who rules not by possession but by inner sovereignty. Success remains a poisoned chalice. The fear is not of success itself, but of the unworthiness that success magnifies. The Stoics taught that wealth is indifferent, neither curse nor blessing, but the interpretation of the mind shapes its value. Epictetus reminded his students that external gains belong to fortune, but inner mastery belongs to the self. The Jungian path teaches the same. The trader must journey inward, face the dragon of inadequacy, and reclaim the gold of self-worth before external fortune can be sustained. Otherwise, the fear of success gnaws silently, driving sabotage, avoidance, or exhaustion. As you hear these words, perhaps you recognize yourself. Perhaps you have touched moments of brilliance, only to recoil. Perhaps you have built gains, only to dismantle them with a single rash decision. Know this: it is not weakness, it is not madness, it is simply the ancient dance of psyche and shadow. Success is the outer symbol, The real battle is inner, and it is fought in silence. Every trade becomes a ritual, every profit an initiation, every loss a whisper from the unconscious. The question is not whether you can win. The question is whether you can carry the victory without collapsing under its weight. Most traders imagine that the terror lies in losing money, but deeper still lies the terror of holding on to abundance. Success does not feel like a gentle gift. It often feels like an avalanche. As account balances climb, responsibilities multiply, eyes turn toward you, and the psyche trembles under the weight of expectation. For Michael Marcus, extraordinary profits did not only elevate his fortune, they magnified every hidden insecurity. The unconscious does not remain silent when fortune arrives. It speaks in self-sabotage, hesitation, reckless overreach, or sudden exhaustion. Success forces the trader to meet parts of himself that failure conveniently kept in the shadows. You may believe that you will rejoice when the market crowns you with gains, but imagine the moment when a series of victories transforms into a mountain of wealth, larger than anything you dreamed possible. The applause of numbers on the screen does not silence the doubt that echoes within. What if I cannot sustain this? What if tomorrow exposes me as a fraud? What if others envy or despise me? These unspoken questions are the hidden fears of success. They corrode confidence from within, like invisible termites eating the beams of a house, until collapse feels inevitable. Jungian psychology reveals that what you avoid becomes what controls you. A trader who avoids confronting these hidden fears becomes enslaved by them. Profits become fleeting visitors rather than permanent allies. The archetype of the shadow emerges here in full force. In the unconscious, success may symbolize betrayal of one's humble roots, betrayal of old companions, betrayal of a self-image rooted in struggle. Thus success unconsciously becomes the enemy. This is why many traders, after great victories, unconsciously orchestrate defeats. They return to the familiar terrain of scarcity, where the self feels at home. Think of the Stoics who warned of the intoxication of fortune. Seneca wrote that wealth without wisdom is a snare, and Marcus Aurelius prayed each morning to remind himself that nothing external defines his worth. Yet in the trading room, when screens glow with surging profits, it is difficult to remember that money is only a tool. Without inner mastery, money feels like a judgment. The market, indifferent and merciless, does not care whether you are psychologically prepared. It simply magnifies whatever already exists within you. If fear of success exists, the market will expose it. Some traders cloak their fear in excessive caution. They cut winning trades too early, calling it discipline, when it is actually fear of holding power. Others swing to the opposite extreme, entering reckless over-leverage after a win, as if success must immediately be destroyed before it consumes them. Both patterns reveal the same wound, an inability to stand in the fullness of abundance. It is not loss that breaks the myth, it is the weight of potential. You may feel this within yourself. Perhaps you have noticed that when you begin to rise, a strange discomfort creeps in. Instead of celebrating, you begin to sabotage. You tell yourself it is the market turning, but beneath the surface, it is the unconscious whispering. This is not who you are. This is the shadow speaking. Jung taught that individuation requires the confrontation of shadow, the acknowledgement that the parts of yourself you exile will eventually sabotage you. Success demands that you expand your identity to hold power and responsibility. Without integration, the psyche rebels. Michael Marcus became a symbol of both triumph and torment. His rise demonstrated that trading brilliance could produce unimaginable wealth. Yet his struggles revealed that success is never external alone. It is internal reconciliation. His story illustrates a timeless truth, that without confronting the fear of success, fortune will slip away as mysteriously as it arrived. Traders who seek only strategy and neglect psychology are like warriors who polish their swords but neglect the armor of the soul. The Stoic discipline offers a pathway forward. Epictetus instructed his students to separate what is in their control from what is not. For the trader, profits are not truly in your control. Only process, discipline, and state of mind are. To embrace success without fear requires detaching identity from the account balance. You must see wealth as a resource, not as proof of your worth. Otherwise, every rise in fortune inflates the ego and every dip wounds the soul, chaining you to endless suffering. True mastery lies in treating success and failure as equal impostors, as Kipling once wrote, neither defining who you are. Ask yourself, do you truly fear loss, or do you fear the new self success will demand of you? Perhaps you cling to scarcity because it feels safer than expansion. Perhaps you fear alienation if you rise too far above others. Perhaps you equate prosperity with arrogance or corruption. These unconscious associations dictate more trades than any chart pattern. Until they are confronted, you will repeat cycles of rise and collapse, like a tide unable to stay ashore. The market is a stage where archetypes battle: the fearful child, the reckless gambler, the cautious sage, the sovereign king. Success reveals which archetype rules within you. If the child or gambler dominates, success becomes fleeting. If the king archetype awakens the ruler who governs with wisdom and detachment, then abundance can be held without fear. To trade is to meet yourself, to win is to face your shadow, and to sustain success is to integrate your worth with your fortune, rather than allow fortune to dictate your worth. There is a peculiar silence that arrives after a great victory. The screens go dark for the evening, the numbers remain in your account, yet the room feels haunted. Many traders, like Michael Marcus, have described this moment as more unsettling than any drawdown. When success finally arrives, the psyche does not erupt in endless joy. It trembles with disorientation. The self that was forged in struggle suddenly finds itself suspended in abundance, and like a soldier returned from war, it does not know how to live in peace. The unconscious whispers, "What if this is temporary? What if I lose myself? What if I cannot carry this crown?" This is the fear of expansion. In Jungian terms, it is the fear of individuation, the terror that becoming whole will destroy the familiar fragments of identity. The trader who once identified as the underdog now stands as a victor, yet he still clings to the narrative of scarcity. He feels torn between two selves: the humble struggler who built resilience in the shadows, and the powerful sovereign who must now govern abundance. The shadow protests, "Stay small, stay hidden. Safety lives in limitation," and so many traders unconsciously dismantle what they built, returning to the comfort of struggle where identity feels intact. The Stoics foresaw this battle long before modern trading existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man's worth is not elevated by applause, nor diminished by silence. Yet the ego longs for applause, and when it arrives, it becomes intoxicated, then anxious, then fearful. The trader, like the emperor, must remind himself, "This wealth, this power, this recognition, belongs not to me but to fortune. My task is to govern myself, not the shifting tides of approval." Without this discipline, success becomes as heavy as lead, and the trader staggers beneath its invisible weight. You may know this sensation. After a series of wins, instead of feeling liberated, you feel imprisoned by them. Every new trade carries the burden of defending what you have. Each tick against you stirs disproportionate panic. For now you are no longer fighting to gain, you are fighting not to lose. The irony is cruel. Success, which once seemed the antidote to fear, becomes the source of a deeper fear. And so the mind twists. Better to sabotage now, better to retreat, better to return to scarcity where the burden was lighter. This is why many traders unconsciously destroy their own gains. It is not ignorance of strategy, it is refusal of responsibility. Michael Marcus himself wrestled with this archetype. His immense wealth became a labyrinth where his psyche stumbled. At times he triumphed brilliantly. At times he surrendered to destructive cycles. He embodied the alchemist who turned lead into gold, only to discover that gold without inner transformation reverts again to lead. His journey revealed that trading is never solely about markets. It is about the confrontation with one's hidden gods and demons. Success amplifies that confrontation until it can no longer be ignored. Jung taught that the shadow contains not only darkness but also power. When you reject success, you are rejecting your own latent sovereignty. When you fear abundance, you are fearing the king within you. The trader who cannot integrate the archetype of the king will always remain a servant to the market, tossed between greed and fear, hope and despair. To embrace success fully is to accept the throne of your own psyche, to govern your emotions as a sovereign governs his realm. Without this, every gain is haunted by suspicion, every victory stalked by the shadow of collapse. The Stoics provide tools for this transformation. Epictetus instructed his students to focus only on what lies within their control: judgment, intention, discipline. He reminded them that external fortune is like a guest who arrives and departs at will. To cling to it is madness. To govern oneself is wisdom. For the trader, this means that profits must never define identity. Success must be treated as a guest, not a master. Otherwise, you will live in fear of its departure, and that fear will sabotage you more effectively than any market downturn. Perhaps you sense within yourself that fear of being seen. Success exposes you. It draws attention. It whispers of responsibility, of judgment, of envy. To avoid this, you unconsciously dull your own brilliance, clipping your wings before the flight has truly begun. But know this, such avoidance is the deepest betrayal of your potential. The market does not only test skill, it tests courage to inhabit the fullness of who you are becoming. Every prophet calls forth a new self, and every hesitation reveals resistance to growth. The paradox of success is that it demands surrender. Not surrender to fear, but surrender of attachment. You must surrender the need for identity to be tied to results. You must surrender the belief that success will make you whole. You must surrender the unconscious loyalty to limitation. Only then can abundance be held without trembling hands. Success is not the end of the journey. It is another trial on the path to individuation. The crown is not a reward but a responsibility, and only the integrated psyche can carry it without collapse. So ask yourself, do you fear failure, or do you fear becoming powerful beyond your old identity? Do you retreat not because you lack skill, but because you resist transformation? In the silence after victory, listen closely. The shadow is speaking. It does not seek to destroy you. It seeks integration. It asks that you expand, that you embrace abundance without shame, without guilt, without fear. For only then can success become not a burden, but a throne upon which you sit with calm authority. The deeper the victory, the louder the silence that follows. Many traders discover that what unnerves them is not the storm of losing, but the stillness of success. After Michael Marcus transformed small sums into vast fortunes, the external world called it genius, yet internally he battled an unseen adversary. The psyche, unprepared for expansion, experiences prosperity like a foreign land rich in opportunity but alien to the soul that has always identified with struggle. The hidden fear is not that the fortune will vanish, but that success itself will demand a new identity, one the trader is terrified to inhabit. In Jungian thought, every ascent into light pulls a shadow behind it. The greater the gain, the greater the shadow of unworthiness rises. The unconscious voice murmurs, "You are an imposter. This is too much for you. You will fall." These whispers feed hesitation, reckless trades, and sudden retreats. What appears as technical error on the chart is often psychological resistance in disguise. Traders repeat the pattern of building and destroying, rising and collapsing, as if compelled by forces beyond reason. They are not victims of randomness but of inner division. Until the shadow is faced, success cannot be sustained. You may know this feeling. A string of profits lifts you into euphoria, but quickly unease creeps in. You feel watched, pressured, burdened by expectation. Instead of liberation, you sense chains tightening. Some traders respond by fleeing, cashing out prematurely, lowering ambition, hiding from opportunity. Others rebel through recklessness, throwing themselves into oversized positions that all but guarantee disaster. Both responses are the psyche attempt to return to the familiar territory of struggle, where the identity of the fighter feels safe. It is not the market destroying them, it is their refusal to evolve. The Stoics would call this slavery to externals. Seneca warned that wealth without wisdom enslaves more than poverty. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to see fortune as clay, shaped by circumstance, never by essence. The trader who forgets this becomes a prisoner of numbers, forever terrified that each tick will redefine his worth. Success becomes unbearable because it is mistaken for identity. But if you detach self from fortune, then both gains and losses become mere passing weather, incapable of disturbing the calm of the inner citadel. Michael Marcus became an emblem of this paradox. His ability to multiply capital revealed a mastery of strategy, but his battles with self-destruction revealed the difficulty of integration. His story echoes that of the mythic hero who seizes the golden treasure but collapses under its weight. Without psychological alchemy, gold becomes poison. Without individuation, fortune becomes fragmentation. The hidden fear of success is not fear of abundance, it is fear of the death of the old self. To hold great wealth requires becoming someone larger than the self that first pursued it. This transformation is not gentle. Jung described individuation as a process of death and rebirth, a descent into the underworld of the unconscious, where the ego is shattered and reformed. For the trader, each new plateau of success demands such a descent. Old beliefs, old identities, old limits must be surrendered. If not, the psyche clings desperately to sabotage, ensuring that growth halts before transformation is required. The trader convinces himself he has been defeated by the market, but the truth is that he has been defeated by his own refusal to expand. Look within and ask, do you believe you deserve to win? Or do you secretly equate prosperity with arrogance, corruption, or isolation? Do you imagine that wealth will estrange you from others, or expose you to judgment, or strip you of humility? If so, each profit will feel dangerous, each success a betrayal. These beliefs lie dormant until fortune awakens them, and then they rise with full force, shaping behavior more powerfully than any technical signal. The fear of success is the fear of these unconscious stories erupting into consciousness. The path forward is one of integration. You must meet the shadow and embrace it. You must allow yourself to feel the guilt, the doubt, the shame, and to recognize them as relics of the past, not laws of the present. The Jungian archetype of the king calls to you here. The king does not hoard power or collapse under its weight. He governs it with calm detachment, using abundance not as proof of worth but as a resource for creation. To embody this archetype is to transcend the fear of success. It is to stand in sovereignty over both gains and losses, unshaken by either. The Stoics align with this archetype. Epictetus taught that you must separate what is yours from what is not. Wealth, status, applause, these belong to fortune. Your mind, your discipline, your courage, these belong to you. When success arrives, the untrained trader mistakes it as his essence, and so he trembles. The wise trader sees it as fortune gift, welcomed but never worshipped. Thus he can hold it without fear, and let it go without despair. This is freedom, the true prize behind the illusion of financial conquest. Perhaps you recognize the battle within yourself. Perhaps you have risen only to retreat, succeeded only to sabotage. Know this, it is not weakness, it is initiation. The market has led you to the threshold of transformation. The fear of success is the guardian at the gate, testing whether you are ready to expand beyond the identity of struggle into the sovereignty of mastery. The battle is not with price or trend, it is with the shadow within, and the victory is not fortune but freedom. Success, when stripped bare, is not a number on a ledger but a mirror, reflecting back the trader's deepest conflicts. When Michael Marcus multiplied his fortune, the world celebrated the staggering figures. Yet, within him raged a storm invisible to the outside eye. His triumphs revealed an eternal paradox. The same force that drives the trader upward also drags him into the abyss. Every gain is a torch that illuminates hidden corners of the psyche, and in those corners live the fears most traders prefer to ignore. The greater the light, the darker the shadow. The fear of success is born from the archetypal tension between the hero and the shadow. The hero strives, battles, conquers. The shadow whispers, undermines, sabotages. When the hero returns with treasure, the shadow steps forth and asks, "Are you worthy to carry this?" The unprepared ego recoils. It doubts, it trembles, it disowns its own accomplishment. This is why many who achieve great heights quickly spiral downward. They cannot yet embody the figure that success demands them to be. For Marcus, and for countless traders who follow, this was the unending psychological duel. You may recognize this pattern. After days or weeks of steady profits, a strange heaviness creeps in. Each new win feels less like liberation and more like responsibility. Anxiety multiplies with each additional zero on the account. You begin to ask yourself questions you never asked before. What if I lose it all? What if people expect me to always win? What if success isolates me? These questions are not born of market conditions. They are born of the unconscious, which has not yet reconciled abundance with self-worth. The market is not punishing you, it is simply holding up a mirror. The Stoics warned against this enslavement to outcomes. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, lived with wealth and power beyond imagination. Yet he wrote nightly to remind himself that nothing external could define his essence. He knew that fortune, like the market, is capricious, never fully within one grasp. To cling to it is madness. To remain centered regardless of its ebb and flow is wisdom. The trader who fears success has forgotten this. He has mistaken wealth for identity, applause for truth, outcomes for self. Thus, he trembles. Michael Marcus once admitted that the psychological toll of success was as great as the strain of failure. In that confession lies a profound truth. Success is its own crucible, its own battlefield. It tests not only discipline but also identity, not only strategy but also soul. To sustain wealth requires not merely technical skill but psychological alchemy. Without this inner transformation, fortune becomes a toxin. With it, fortune becomes a tool. The alchemist's task is not simply to turn base metal into gold, it is to turn the self capable of carrying gold without being corrupted. Jung described individuation as this very process, the unification of opposites within the psyche, the reconciliation of shadow with self. For the trader, individuation means recognizing that success and failure are both necessary teachers. Success without integration will collapse into failure. Failure without reflection will calcify into despair. But success embraced with humility, and failure embraced with courage, lead the trader to a state beyond fear. It is in this space that true mastery emerges. You may feel the pull of this transformation. You may sense that your greatest barrier is not the market, but the self you refuse to become. Each prophet is an invitation to step into sovereignty, to embody the archetype of the king who rules without clinging, who governs without fear. Yet the ego resists. It clings to old stories. I am not worthy. Wealth will corrupt me. Success will isolate me. These stories protect you from expansion, but they also imprison you. Until you release them, you will cycle endlessly between triumph and self-destruction. The Stoics provide the discipline to walk this path. Epictetus taught that true freedom lies in distinguishing between what belongs to you and what does not. Wealth, praise, fortune, these do not belong to you. Discipline, virtue, courage, these do. If you can see success as fortune loan, never your possession, then fear dissolves. You no longer tremble at its arrival or its departure. You simply use it, like a tool, and release it when it is gone. This is the ultimate detachment, the ability to hold abundance with open hands, unafraid of losing what was never yours to begin with. Michael Marker's story becomes, then, not simply one of profits and losses, but of archetypal initiation. His brilliance lit the way, but his battles revealed the cost of neglecting the inner journey. For every trader listening, his legacy is a warning and an invitation. The market will test your system, but it will also test your soul. You cannot separate the two. To fear success is to fear your own power. To integrate success is to embrace sovereignty over both wealth and self. And so the trader's true task is revealed. It is not only to chart, analyze, and execute, but to confront the unconscious narratives that sabotage prosperity. It is to sit with the discomfort of abundance and expand the self until abundance no longer feels foreign. It is to embody discipline, humility, and detachment so deeply that success cannot intoxicate and failure cannot devastate. It is to recognize that the real market is within, and every trade is but a mirror of that eternal struggle. The final stage of mastery is not the conquest of the market, but the conquest of the mind. Success is not the destination, it is the crucible. Fear of success is not the enemy, is the threshold. Beyond it lies sovereignty, the calm authority of one who has integrated shadow and self. For when the trader no longer fears success or failure, he is finally free. The market becomes not a battlefield, but a reflection, not a tormentor, but a teacher. The trader who conquers the mind has already conquered the market.